For example, Sasol, if you look at Sasol has two projects, correct? They have the ethylene, but they also have the gas to liquids. They've learned, they got this technique for taking natural gas into this end and generating on the other end gasoline or diesel that you can put in your car or truck. And so one of the reasons they're doing that is because there's a very large gap that exists out there between the price of oil and the price of natural gas. G2X Energy is in the same, a $1.5 billion project, once again, making out of natural gas, making diesel or gasoline. So what is happening right now? What are these firms doing? These firms are out there making three very large bets. Here's the first bet. They're betting that the price of natural gas is going to stay low. I think that's a very good bet. I think there's an ocean of natural gas out there. I just got back from a speech in Williston, North Dakota. God help me. But Williston, North Dakota, and you know, until this year, until regulations were put in place, they were flaring off 30% of their natural gas. They had no way of getting it out of there. They're just flaring it off into the air. I don't care how many plants that we have that switch from using coal to natural gas. I don't care how many of these new plants here are built. There's still an ocean of natural gas out there. I think this is a good bet. The second bet is that people in Europe are going to remain stupid. Now the reason I say that is because there's a lot of natural gas under Europe. But Europe, if you think the Greens are powerful here, they are so powerful in Europe that they have passed a European Union-wide ban on fracking. Even if you lifted the ban, there is a problem. And one of the problems is they don't have, we have pipelines going every place, except kind of up where the Bakken is. We have all kinds of pipelines. They have virtually no transportation network for this in Europe. The second problem, and this is a really big one, is that if I am Chesapeake, let's say, and I want to go to a farmer up in the northwestern part of our state where the Haynesville Shale is, and I go to this farmer and say, see, you got 3,000 acres of land here. I'm going to pay you $10,000 an acre plus 18% of the value of the natural gas if I drill there. And the farmer says, nah, but no, the farmer's give you the money. Right? If you go to the same farmer in Europe, I want to drill on your land. I'm going to give you $10,000 plus a royalty rate of 18.5% of the value of the natural gas. The farmer's going to say, oh shoot, I don't own the mineral rights. The mineral rights are owned by the government. So you got to go to the government who thinks, if I let one person do this, there are going to be 10 billion Greens marching in the street. So we got that going for us. So that's a really good thing. It's just a matter of, as they start shutting down chemical plants, high-wage chemical plants, and they start losing that business, somewhere along the line, they're going to say, as they say in Texas, hail. This is stupid. We're real lucky that's going to be a long ways out. That is a very important thing. The third bet, and this is the hardest bet of all, is this big gap between the price of oil and the price of natural gas is going to stay there. Which brings up, now, why would anybody think it's not going to stay there? Matter of fact, about less than a year ago now, Shell was going to build a GTL plant, just like Sasol's, down around Geismar. And they decided not to do it. They picked us over Texas and decided not to do it. You know why they decided not to do it? Because they're worried about that gap. They're not worried about the bottom part. They're not worried about the price of natural gas. What they're worried about is this coming down. They're worried about the price of oil coming down. By the way, this is my oil price forecast. Actually, it's not my oil price forecast. If you look at the Louisiana Economic Outlook, the Louisiana Economic Outlook is co-authored. Okay? Dr. Jim Richardson co-authored with me. He's the one that said the price of oil would stay at $95 a barrel. Okay, I told him, I kept telling him he's going to go to 71. He wouldn't listen. All right, anyway. The nice thing about having a co-author, you can blame any errors on him. But of course, right now, see, this is where the problem is, as I see it, for you guys. The problem is the Sasol's second project, and also the G2X. Anybody that's taking natural gas and out of it making gasoline or diesel has got to look at what happened in the last couple of weeks and say, oh, shoot. Okay? Because they need that big gap. Now, I was talking to some guy that has a lot of investments up in the Bakken play today, and I said, one good thing I got to tell you, if you look at what's going on, what's caused the price to go down? Part of it is that Europe's kind of in the tank, and so the demand has gone down. Part of it is that the United States production is up 70% since 08. Realize that? 70%. But you know what? It's been up 70% for 3 or 4 years. And the price hasn't fallen. I think the primary thing that's going on now is what's going on in OPEC. Now, I don't know how much you know about how OPEC works, but OPEC is a group of about 12 or 13 countries. 13 countries. And they control about a third of the oil that's produced in the world. Now, what they decided back in the early 70s is that, you know, we can keep pumping oil, just open the spigots up, but the price of oil is going to stay $2 per barrel. Tell you what let's do. Let's cut back on our output. And what we're going to do is we're going to get each one of these 13 members their share of the output. Everybody's going to cut back. The price is going to go way up, and we'll all be better off. Even though we're producing less, the price is up so high. You know, the only thing is, you learn, one of the important things you learn in your principles economics class is that cartels are inherently unstable. And the reason is because the incentives to cheat are so great. And so, back in the early 80s, a bunch of the members of the cartel were cheating like crazy, and for a while, the biggest member, the member that produces the most, Saudis, kept saying, okay, well, if you cheat, but, you know, a million barrels, I'll cut back on my production by 1 million barrels. They kept offsetting with cuts in their own production. And finally, they said, as they say in Texas, hail. They said, hail. And so they said, okay, you want to see what cheating's like? I said, what's cheating's like? And all this oil flooded and the price of oil fell to $10.50. Now, what's happening right now is you have some cheating among the cartel members. And they don't have another meeting until like November. And so if this stuff continues down, Credit Suisse is going to 71 maybe, somewhere along the line they're going to say, hey, they're going to have a meeting or an emergency meeting and say, okay, King's X, we're not going to cheat anymore. Let's go back to our rules, just like we did back in the latter half of the 1980s. So that's the one thing, if you're a high-price oil person, you want that happen. That's the one thing hanging out there that might help save the day here. Okay?